This is a HeadGum podcast.
Okay, take the bones, and why don't we put him in like a Hard Rock glass case?
Yeah.
And maybe put him in like a pirate outfit.
What for?
Like
now
the
you're
old Treasure
kind of,
Island outfit.
Well, now you're making him into some mascot that he may not have any. He may have a thing against pirates.
Well, let's see what he says. I think we
Nothing.
can
He'll
pitch
be
him
dead. And we're back on a Monday
We
morning.
sure are, Jake. Boy, we got a banger.
We got a banger.
We got a banger.
We've got a podcast pro, an improviser, an actor,
Yeah.
a writer, super funny guy.
Super funny guy. You know him from his podcast, How Did This Get Made?
Yep.
He's also got a new book that is kind of an extension from the pod a little bit,
Yeah.
but we get into that a little bit. It's called Joyful Memories of Childhood Trauma.
Recollections.
Okay. You know, it's called Joyful Recollections of Childhood Trauma.
Yeah.
Paul Scheer,
Yeah.
who is awesome.
Sorry,
and-
do one more. Joyful Recollections of Trauma.
This is why guys like us write things down.
All right. His book, Joyful Recollections of Childhood Trauma.
Trauma. Lose the childhood.
Joyful Recollections of Trauma.
Keeping this all in. Yeah.
Do not
Wait, by the way, yes.
Title.
I think we have to. But he does tell some stories.
And
he
Kevin-
gave some about us that were
and
really
Kevin,
funny.
when he came in, Kevin was like, "This dude, nobody works harder than this dude.
He's the hardest working guy I've ever met. He's
Yeah.
a
True?
beast.
So he's
Yeah.
an animal.
He's an animal.
He's great, and he's just fits right in.
He's awesome.
Awesome calls.
It's really funny you're leaving all those out.
No, you're not.
Outtakes in.
God damn it. I can't. You know what? Then you're gonna do it from now on.
I can't.
But I can't either.
No, mine will be worse because I'll have to go.
All right. You know what? Actually, how about this? Why don't you do one now, and we'll see how close you get.
Okay. Paul Scheer from the podcast How Did This Get Made? And he wrote a great book about his childhood called Childhood Stuff.
One word right.
Childhood Trauma Recollections.
That's a pretty good title.
I mean, it's interesting.
Probably what we should title the episode is Childhood Recollections.
All right, now do your best to say the title.
Oh, shit.
Do
Why?
the intro. Let's hear it.
Okay. All right. You know him from his podcast, How Did This Get Made? And his book, Joyful Recollections of Childhood Trauma.
Is that right?
Of trauma.
Kevin,
Of
you
trauma.
do it.
Of
for
trauma.
them. Kevin, do not read it.
We've
Kevin
got
knows it.
Paul Scheer with us today. He's the host of the podcast How Did This Get Made? And he wrote a memoir called Fuck.
Yes!
Hey,
Joyful
hold
Recollections.
on. So confident.
I know.
You could see his
It's at the
eyes.
end.
Yeah.
He wanted to grab that little binky so bad that computer
It was
screen.
right there.
Do it again, Kevin.
We got Paul Scheer with us today. He's the host of How Did This Get Made? And he wrote the book Joyful Recollections of Trauma.
you got
Oh.
But by the way, he could have gotten it wrong. We don't know. There's no way for you and I to know. We're just sitting here
Yeah.
fucking flying.
You're not wrong. Without further ado.
Hello, how's it going?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing well. Hey, gentlemen.
Hey, can we get your name, please?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Ben.
Ben, you got a special guest. A guy I have known kind of about 20-ish years.
Oh my gosh, really?
Since
true, right?
old New York
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
A guy I've been a fan of as a talent
Oh my gosh.
and as a kind human.
I'll take both of these compliments. Thank you so much. Well, I am a fan and a talent. I think you're a talent, and I'm a fan of yours. so.
And a
I haven't
talent.
stopped introducing you. Mr. Paul Scheer is on the show. Welcome to the show,
Oh,
Paul.
thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm excited to hear this problem
Same.
that you have, Ben. Is his name Ben, right?
So, Ben, where are you from?
I live in Tulsa.
Tulsa, Oklahoma? Okay, there's a lot of production happening. Eric Elliston's shooting a show right now in Tulsa.
I was just in Oklahoma City. They have a whole giant studio down there. They shot Twisters, Killer of the
Yeah.
Flower Moon, a movie called Reagan.
He's Eric Elliston's in a
Reagan.
pilot right now in Tulsa.
This is where it's all happening. I mean,
Why Tulsa? Why Oklahoma?
All I'm going to say is this. The reason why I'm in Twisters, the sequel to Twister,
Yeah.
is because I was going down to Oklahoma on a flight, and the director also happened to be on a flight, and he's like, "Are you in Oklahoma?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You want to be in the movie?" I was
Wow.
like,
Is this true?
Yeah.
That's
100%.
great.
What were you doing in
You
Oklahoma?
plain book.
I was
You
shooting.
plain book.
I just fly on flights. That's how I get jobs now.
That's great.
To Atlanta, Oklahoma, Vancouver.
That's
I
very
just, yeah,
smart. Wherever production's happening.
They're like, "Oh, local hire, great. We don't even have to audition you." No, I was there directing a Super Bowl commercial, a regional Super Bowl commercial
for you.
out of Oklahoma, because they actually have, it's actually a really interesting thing. They have a 911 is the emergency hotline. They have this hotline called 988, which is the mental health crisis line, and they've saved like 60,000 lives in the last year in Oklahoma
We need
because they are basically, and everybody has it. They're the only ones that finance it.
Wow.
So they have like mobile teams that come out to your house, help you out, find you a therapist. It's
Pretty good.
truly amazing. Yeah.
So Ben from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, don't call 988. You
Yeah,
call
you
us.
call
You
this
called
podcast.
us, which
Yeah,
is
this-
also
yeah.
good.
Yeah, better.
Don't take food out of our mouth, Paul.
Yeah, exactly.
Look,
Forget 988.
Yeah.
they're not even half as entertaining.
It's either 911 or this podcast.
Here to
as
help
far as
at
we're
gmail.com.
concerned. Thank you. That's
So
where
Ben,
you
what
reach
is the
out
problem,
to.
sir? Hold on, Kevin. What's so serious, my friend?
The screen behind you went black.
Understood.
Keep going, Ben. I'll change it.
I thought you were having something
worries.
was going on with health.
Yeah, 988.
In the background, Kevin's mostly laughing.
He's going to call it in.
He was going like this. I was like, what is happening? Is my guy okay? All right, Ben, what's the problem?
I thought I dialed 988. I thought you guys were going to show up.
You did. Just tell us
I guess
the
that's
issue.
not
We'll
the case.
figure it
Yeah,
out.
this is 988.
Wrong number. Awesome. Anyways, I'm 37 years old. I live in Tulsa, from Southern California. I hate Twisters, but looking forward to the movie. Anyways,
There you
Great start.
Great setup.
Love it.
what brings me to my problem? I'm the middle child of 3 boys
Okay.
who have an awesome, badass, loving, amazing dad. Our dad is incredible. We have spent our entire life pranking us, trying to scare us, but in the most loving way.
Yeah.
He's just an incredible human being. As he gets older, that kind of gets us to having more of these conversations around his wishes for after he passes on. I will not get into any weird scenarios or anything like that, but it leads me to this question. He has this wish for after he dies that he has told me and my brothers. Now, instead of just like a very traditional afterlife, he thinks it would be funny to have all of his bones turned into a skeleton and then be placed in my older brother's doctor's office as like a funny bit, but he's very serious about it.
I love your dad.
And my older brother, yes, he is a doctor, and he wants his remains to be a skeleton in his office in which my brother could then refer to him as his dad, move him around every day.
my
visit
God.
patients.
Well, this is
so-
amazing because, Del Close, like famed improv guru Del Close, donated his skull
Yes.
to a theater
Yeah.
to basically do plays like Macbeth and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
this is not unheard
No.
of.
So your dad wants his bones to be in his son's doctor's office. How the siblings? How you guys feeling about this? What's happening?
As a middle child, I feel like with, the lack of love my entire life, I want to be the person that helps my dad get what he wants in
Yes.
the afterlife. My dad has actually pulled me aside separately from my brothers and said, hey, Ben, this is your responsibility to convince your older
love
brother
your
that
dad.
this is a good idea.
I'm into
Yeah.
this.
Because
I'm
I want
into
it to
this.
happen.
Well, now here's my question, just in a general sense. I don't know if anyone knows this, but when I see those skeletons, like in a school
Yeah.
or in a doctor's office, I assume that they're plastic.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
Right.
agree.
Like,
Half
Yeah.
of it, about I would
Okay.
say they used to be more bones.
okay,
Now they're getting more plastic. I remember as a
Okay.
kid they didn't feel plastic. Or
Okay.
maybe
Ugh.
I'm seeing it weird. But I remember the age where I was like, "Oh, this isn't real."
Ugh.
right. It seems like it's, and this is my biggest question, because the want to do this, like, I think that there does need to be some real, just before anyone convinces anyone, like, can you do this?
Yeah.
Is this
So-
possible? Because we're talking about like
You gotta
melting the
clean.
flesh
So-
off
Yeah.
of a
All right, so
body.
Ben-
Well, now it's
hold
less
on.
of a prank all of a sudden.
So Ben, how have you looked into this?
Wait, sorry, can you repeat
Yeah,
that?
have you looked into this? Is this a thing you could?
No, my Google search history is clear of this topic. I haven't dove in. I'm assuming this might be like an out of country like exploration here. I wouldn't
don't know.
assume
I
these,
don't
like
think
any
that's-
ethical.
I think you
You
could
live
do
in
it here.
America, my man.
Really?
You could do
Oh,
this.
yeah.
This is science.
I'll do
Read
it.
it.
Does
I'll do it for
anybody
30
have a
bucks.
connection to the people who do the bodies exhibit? We can get your
Oh,
dad
that
with
thing.
them.
Speaking of things that creep you
Yeah.
out.
Oh.
And so, what is the specific question here? This is a hell of a setup.
Okay, so my specific question, as like, I kind of want to be on board. I think it's hilarious. My dad thinks it's funny that we can position him to like flip off patients and things like that. My question is, though I think my dad is a maniac, I still want to respect his wishes. So how do I go about convincing my older brother, since would be his office, his every day?
So what's your older brother's thoughts on this?
I think my older brother, anytime my dad has said it to us, thinks like, oh, he's just being dad. Right. He's just messing around. This isn't really what he wants. Whenever like we get to the point where like we see his will or whatever it is, it's not true. So he kind of just plays it off as it like it isn't real. So, but given my dad has pulled me aside
I got something to connect to you on this one. Before I moved in with my dad in my mid-20s when we were getting to know each other, and we were talking about when you die, how do you know? Like, are you there? Are you watching? Right. And we were both diehard Cubs fans. We watched the Cubs games together. And he said, well, let's make a deal. When I die, take my ashes, break into Wrigley Field, go on the right side of home plate as like a righty hitter, and scatter me there. Then take a moment. And if I have any ability to break through, I will give you a fucking sign then. So, he said it to me. We meant it. We talked about it over the years. I brought it up with my siblings. My brother laughed. My sister was like, my fucking dad is not going to be in a baseball stadium. He's going to be with like the Dolphins at like Key West where he loved. We're all like, whatever. She didn't love the idea as much. Long story short, my career kind of starts. I start going like, Dad, there might be a chance here. Yeah. I get to know the Cubs a little bit. I do some things for them. I'm like, there might be a real world here. My dad passes. We split the ashes. You can actually do this when you divvy. We divvy it up. So my brother and I had half. My sister had half. The Cubs reached out, said, do you want to throw out the first pitch? I said, this is a good moment. I took a bunch of the ashes in my front pocket in like a little jar. I put some of them on the mound right before I threw out the pitch. After I threw out the pitch, you like shake hands with the catcher. I beelined past him. Went to home plate, took the ashes, put them on the ground, scattered them down like I'm a diehard fan just trying to feel it. Yeah. Scattered as much of them as I could, took a second, looked around, didn't feel anything. Okay. But did the moment of which we promised, shook the mascot's hand and walked out of there.
Wow.
Ashy handshake.
And so where I'm going with this is regardless if your brother passes on it, it is your job to deliver your brother your dad's skeleton in form that all he needs to do is place it out. And if he doesn't, then you keep it in your house. But this is what your dad wants. This is a tradition I'm trying to do in my family. I'm talking to my father-in-law about my mother, like my mom, where do you want to be? I've already talked to my wife about I think you should give your kids a big challenge so that the grieving process is part of it is like, how do I make this happen? That's your job. Yeah. The end of the mission, you say goodbye.
I love this idea. And I think that, there's a couple things that I would jump in and say about what you have in front of you. Yeah. First of all, it's a big ask. It's a big ask. So we don't even know it's possible. But we do know that Del Close got his skull there.
It's possible.
There's something where you can say maybe a skull is easier, right? Mm-hmm. And get that fucking skull. Put it in a lucite box.
That's exactly right.
You don't have to, it doesn't have to be
the whole thing, like hung up on a rail.
Get the hand, right. Do something. Get the hand in a middle finger gesture. And put that in a lucite box.
That's exactly like the Terminator arm.
Yes.
Yeah, there's something about it that I don't know what your brother specializes in, if it's just internal medicine or he's a different doctor, but I think you could look at versions of it that might be more acceptable. Yeah. Or because I remember there was a guy on a with that show John. It's the guy with the camera on HBO. I'm just forgetting John Wilson. Yes. Yeah. He talked to a guy whose leg got taken off.
That is the craziest.
And that guy has the leg in his living room, and I'm like, so there is worlds.
So I think, Ben, this is 100% doable. I don't think there's a spin. I think it is make sure double check with your dad. Have him put it in writing. Yeah. That this is very real.
Right, because people will come after you
and say no. But if he puts it in writing and he signs it. But it is your responsibility. If your brother passes on it, that's his pass. Yeah. But I like what Paul's saying. there's a world where you have it, and if it's the science can do it, but if they can't, you get the skull, you get the hand. And if nobody else does it, that is in your home and passed down through yours. That's what your dad wants. You said he was a great guy. You loved him. You owe him this. You owe him this.
But I will say the most important part of all of this is it's got to be in writing, because when the death happens, everyone goes a little wild.
Crazy.
And if you all of a sudden say, whoa, 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 give me that hand,
He's
give me
going
that
into
skull.
Greg's office.
Yeah,
Wait,
people are going to freak
you're
the
gonna have,
fuck
you're right.
out.
There's about a year where everybody acts wild.
Yeah.
But if it's in writing, Ben, this is black and white for me.
I
Gareth, what do you got?
I would say, this is what I would say. I think you should have your dad talk to you all at the same time. You'll facilitate it. Get your brothers okay so that we know going into it we're going to do this. Then we can do whatever bone soak process follows. I'm not sure. If your brother passes on it, since your dad loves pranks, I would maybe opt for, and this is a wild pitch, just as an option.
Let's have it.
Just as an option. You take the skeleton. This is normal stuff to be pitching. You might want to call 988. The more that I go through this, this might be okay. Take the bones, and why don't we put him in like a Hard Rock glass case?
Yeah.
And maybe put him in like a pirate outfit.
What for?
Like
now
the old
you're
Treasure
kind of,
Island outfit.
Well, now you're making him into a mascot that he may not have any. He may have a thing against pirates.
Well, let's see what he says. I think we
Nothing.
can
He'll
pitch
be
him
dead.
off. We'll pitch him now while he's
Put
alive.
him in a Magnum PI mustache,
I'm
a
into that.
Hawaiian shirt,
I'm just
a
saying,
Detroit
if
Tigers
you're gonna
hat.
keep a skeleton in your house,
Agreed.
maybe
Have
we
fun with
want to
it.
punch it up a little bit.
Well, yeah.
I'm going to make one turn on Gareth's pitch. I actually like that idea. If you have it, have fun with it. Your dad pranked you every year. Dress the skeleton
he
as
likes
something.
yes.
Have fun with it. Put him in different backgrounds.
Yes.
Well, I mean, the fact that his brother is in a doctor's office, he has a prop that naturally fits in.
Totally.
A human being who is not a doctor, who has a skeleton in their house, is creepy.
A weird guy.
And you,
especially if it's your dad.
And especially if it's your dad, you don't want to. I don't know what your situation is, if you're dating, if you're married, or whatever.
Kids,
but you don't need anyone to come into that
it's
house.
No bueno.
Yeah, you don't want that skeleton in your house.
it's tough.
If I dropped my kids off at a play date, and as I was like saying hi to the parents, being like, yeah, like, so an hour and a half, and I go, what's that? And the guy goes, my dad. I'd go, pack it up, girls.
We're out. We're out.
Oh, I forgot we have a doctor's
can't spend
appointment.
the night,
They can't spend 1 minute here.
Yeah, that's a rough one. I will say too, like, I do think it's important what you're saying about like facilitating a discussion that we know that it's not a bit, because again, my stepfather passed away, and my mom, who decided we must grieve him in a traditional Jewish way. We're not Jewish. We've never experienced any of that tradition. She was like, he was Jewish. And I was like, well, but I've never heard him speak anything of that.
We're not.
And we're not. And she's like, we have to get milk crates. We have to sit on milk crates. We have to sit Shiva. And then she was obsessed with covering all the mirrors. Now, my mom's house had floor to ceiling mirrors, like almost 30 feet tall, because it was like the whole house was like mirrored. So I'm like up on ladders with crepe paper trying to cover every mirror in the house. This is a handful of years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago. And you know, I'm just trying to figure out like what to do. And my mom is like gone crazy, be like, we are doing a traditional, she's like, we got to get this. We're bringing over. Yeah. And I was like, okay. Yeah. And we're just facilitating that insanity of a traditional Jewish, wake. And so like, it would have been so much easier if at one point he said, just bury me.
Yeah.
But
let me make a turn on that.
You got a lot of mirrors. I respect you. Paul's a busy man.
Like when you have to guess what somebody wants, you will guess crazy.
There's not a crepe paper budget needed for when I die.
But let me make a pitch, because I think they're both right that you've got to have some sort of a meeting. I think it's a mistake to do it while he's alive with everyone there, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
It's just a lot of chefs in the kitchen.
Right.
Because the one thing I hate about big group meetings is when everybody has an equal vote. You're like, well, this was an hour and a half that was totally wasted. Here's what I recommend. Do it on video.
I love it.
Have a video where your dad says, my dear sons, this is part of the will that we surprised you on.
Part of the comedy of that, too, is I'm speaking to you from beyond
Yes.
the
That's
scene.
a great
It's a good
bit.
trope.
Great bit.
One of the best bits I've ever seen of that I watch and cry and laugh at the same time is there's this Irish dad who died. And at his funeral, he put a speaker in the casket.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, I'm in here.
Help me, please.
And
I'm
he's
not
like,
dead yet.
stop laughing, you bloody cunts.
Love it.
The best. But what I would do is, as a surprise to everybody, you and him make a video where he says to whatever the lawyer's name's going to be, where you go like, this is real.
Yeah.
And here's what I would like. And
Yeah.
if my son, and then he says him by name, if you're too much of like a tight ass you won't do in your office, that hurts me. And now I'm dead. You've heard a dead man. Let him do his final prank, his final bit, and then he
Right.
says, this is what I want to happen. I love you boys. Have them do something really sweet so you're all crying.
I love it.
You guys were the best thing that ever happened to me. Let him do it however he wants and then go, but this I want. And guys, I want the middle finger flying high.
And
Bye, boys.
And I think, and your job right now is to do all the research. So,
Yes.
so someone can't say, well, how are we even going to do
Yes.
it? You're
You
like, I already know.
slide-
I got, yeah.
You have an envelope
Yes.
with all the information.
But Ben,
we're
you're,
set up.
you're the middle boy. You wanted daddy's love. Go get it. This is the way you get it now.
Yeah.
Get it before he dies. Make a video of it. Make this happen.
The
Ben.
only
There's no
thing
way
I'm
out.
going to say, though, and this is maybe a step away from it, it's not a great prank as much as it is like an installation. I wish, for a dad who's pranking, I wish there was like a little bit more of a...
Well, you know what we could do?
Yeah.
Is we could hang a little sign around the skeleton in the doctor's office
Yeah.
that says "Dad."
I mean,
Yeah,
then
that's right.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's
could be
a
like,
little bit of
we
a
need,
Well,
punch.
that's
yeah,
a prank. That's a bit on the
A little
thing.
punch.
yeah. We
Yes.
need something. We
Because
need,
again,
yeah.
I don't want to go in like with tennis elbow and be like, I didn't come here for like reveals.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Ben, are you going to do this? Are you going to push your dad to do the video? And are you going to give us your word that you're going to make this happen?
No, I really, what's funny is like the name tag thing and the dressing him up that Gareth was pitching is not far off to what I think he wants. Like he
I love
wants
it.
to be like seasonally in a pirate costume or seasonally in a
That's a
Magnum
great
PI
bit.
mustache. Like
I mean,
that's
just
like
a hat on the skeleton.
A hat.
You know, whatever, yeah.
I
Just
agree.
get a hat on
A
him. You don't
little
even-
open treasure.
Yeah.
Come on,
I
enjoy
totally-
it.
Put him in like short shorts and an Oklahoma Sooners hat. Put socks on him.
Wait, put him in a Raiders outfit.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
get crazy. He was a linebacker.
Hey, Ben, we appreciate the call, buddy.
No, thank you so much. I'm definitely. I think I'm going to make a video
And
for
follow up.
sure.
Follow
And
up with us.
Hold on. If you make that video,
Yeah.
will you send it to
Please.
us? Can we air part
yeah,
of that
you
video?
want? I will legit have my dad make
Okay.
a last will and testament video.
Okay. And
Love
then
it.
we will
With
not
this-
air the personal stuff if he's like, we will just air the part about him talking about the skeleton. So anything that gets
Yeah.
real, we
Love
will
this.
beep out names. But the part where he says, boys, this is real, we'll just air that. Could you send that to us, please?
Okay.
I love this.
Me too.
Yeah. He probably won't
Exciting.
give a shit either way, but I'll do it. I am going to do it.
I love it. We will air it. We are part of this. And we hope that he lives for so long that the podcast is done before you execute it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
it would
I-
be great for both to have a lovely life, but one
Yeah,
has
long
to go.
life, long life. Yeah,
Good
exactly.
Lord,
Yeah.
come on.
What are we going to be doing this in 15 years?
Well,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? Ben, we appreciate the call, friend.
And-
Thanks, bud.
Thanks. In 15 years, I'll send you a pic of the skeleton.
Now we're
Right.
talking.
There we go.
Now
Okay.
we're talking.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
This episode of We're Here to Help is brought to you by Kleenex Ultra Soft Tissues, your ally to help tackle your allergy symptoms this season. Garf, we've said it, but if you're going to buy Kleenex, buy Kleenex.
Well, yeah, if you're going to wipe your nose with anything, go with the... Do you have allergies?
I do.
Yeah, I get horrible, horrible allergies, and there's nothing worse than when you look like you're W.C. Fields.
It's not cool. It's not a good look.
You're like,
I will
hey,
say,
babe, I was outside. I ran around the corn a little.
I will say, since they've sponsored us, I have started buying the boxes.
Yes. Well, that's what we're really saying, is we're saying,
It's
like,
just better.
it's a big difference.
It's a good, it's a big
it's a big
difference. So listen,
difference, just remember.
don't be red nose guy. So Kleenex Ultra Soft Tissues are hypoallergenic and the allergists approve. If you use them, you know it's just a good Kleenex. We don't have to sell you Kleenex. You know what it is. So for this allergy season, grab Kleenex and face allergies head on.
Hello.
Hi there. Welcome to We're Here to Help, America's #1 podcast. Don't look it up. I'm sorry, Paul. You're on with Jake Johnson and me, Gareth, and we have a very special guest Very excited to have Paul Scheer joining us today. Thank you, Paul.
I am excited to be here, and I'm excited to take this call. Even though I don't know what it is, I feel like I'm going to have some great advice.
Right attitude.
That's the right attitude.
Yeah, right?
I don't even think we need to do the call. Kevin, hang it up.
No.
Okay, what is your name, please?
Hi, my name is Ellie.
Ellie, okay. And roughly how old and where you're calling from?
I'm 31 and I'm from Orange County.
Okay. And what's going on? What can we help you with?
Well, so my sister is getting married next month, and me and my husband and our 3 young kids are flying out there for the wedding.
Okay.
And I have been very kind of anxious, stressed about the flight because there's 5 of us, and the rows on the Southwest flights are 6 seats. And I am just overthinking the person that's going to be sitting with us and how to approach them and how to, welcome them to the circus for a little while.
I'm going to say one thing just right off the bat. Find yourself a TikTok of a guy who has created the best Southwest hack, which is he has a hoodie and he puts his hand through the hoodie.
Oh my
Lord.
and
then has it up like a puppet almost. And so leans it forward. And as you walk down the aisle, it looks like someone is sitting next to you.
I have to say,
pretty good.
I don't, without even getting too far into your problem, I don't know if that'll be beaten. That is unbelievable.
But what if it's a full flight?
Southwest is the Wild West.
It is the Wild
Southwest
West.
can get.
I hate it. It makes no sense.
They
to
have
me.
added somehow they make you feel like you're on coke when boarding.
Yeah, because it's like, it was so complicated to know where you were sitting before you got on the flight. So we took that out, and we've now made it like jockeying. And then you also feel guilty because it's like, I'm A17. Well, I'm A14. Okay, got it. Like you're like
in line checking.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm right ahead of you, sir.
It's like it's so uncomfortable.
Why would they
ask.
do that? Actually,
They want a Hunger Games airline.
But honest to God, because I flew there about like 18 months ago with my kids.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I want to know where this. Like, I don't get why they do this.
I have asked because it has plagued me. And they say, you get a faster boarding. And I don't understand that because what happens is, you may be getting a lot of people on, but then there's an absolute confusion on the flight as people are jockeying for seats, putting their bags in different locations.
And hate that. I hate that vibe because it's too skinny of an aisle.
Yes. I want to know where I'm sitting. That's
well,
it.
they also, what they do is they make that 24 hours ahead of time check-in.
Yes.
You are like, well, I got to get up at 3:40. I have a Southwest flight.
Unless you want to pay the extra $50.
Which another more bullshit.
But Ellie, this is not about our grievances.
I think it is.
They're a great sponsor of this show. We're so proud to have them.
By the way, Southwest, we love you. God
bless. I just want to
bless.
say thank you to ZocDoc, Rocket Money, and Southwest Airlines.
The best peanuts in the game.
Fly all across the states and pick your own seats. /Gil sent
Feel
me.
like you're Ray Liotta at the end of Goodfellas when boarding.
But Ellie, we're going back to you. So you are flying. Where are you flying to? Where's this wedding?
We're flying from San Diego to Baltimore.
That's a big flight.
It's a big flight.
And give us and this matters, but give us an age of these kids. From oldest to youngest.
Well, I have a 7-year-old who's very independent, but has a very weak stomach.
That's
I have
a really
a
horrible start.
Who has
Wait, hold on. Do you have a 7-year-old with a weak stomach?
4-year-old who has, what's that?
7-year-old weak stomach, 4-year-old what?
4-year-old told me he's scared of flying.
Okay.
And a 2-year-old who is, 2.
Okay.
So,
well, can I ask a wild question right out of the gate? I just want to, this is, because this is not the solution part. This is just question part.
Yeah.
Is there a world in which you just don't bring the kids and you have somebody watch the kids and you go to the wedding?
That's wild.
They're all in the wedding, and my sister's very excited for them to come, and we're very excited.
Okay, that's all. Just wanted to make sure that was.
I'm going to do another Paul, and I like his approach here. We're just throwing it out there before we get in there. Is there a world you can buy a 6 ticket?
Right.
Yeah.
And then you just control it, and that 6 ticket has your bags of Cheerios. It has your iPods. Because you're going to need...
your stretch room.
You're going to need some stretch room. You're also going to need a bag of stuff where you're entertaining these 3. Is there any world, and if the answer is no, we're moving on. Is there any world we solve this with by the row?
It's not really in the cards. It's not outside the realm of possibility.
But we don't want to do
But I'm also understanding that we're talking about 3 on one side and 3 on another. We're not doing 6 across.
No, they do 3 and 3.
3 and 3. So you will have an aisle separating these people too. So someone is either going to be.
I'll tell you who's going to be sitting next to strangers. Dad.
Yes.
It's going to be 3. It's going to be.
Yeah.
Mom will be with 3.
Mhm.
One of probably the 7-year-old is in the aisle. Dad's in the middle. Strangers at the window.
That's probably and I think if you put the
that
kids.
was kind of what we were thinking.
I always, when I do things with my kids, if we're flying and there's the random one, it's not even a question. Dad's next to stranger.
Yeah.
Wait, so you're saying
Have to.
the arrangement is a continual 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the stranger gets the window.
Yes.
See, what I would do is
Yeah.
and
Put the
first of all,
stranger in the middle of the 2 kids
let me
and sleep.
well, how weird do you want to get, Ellie? I really appreciate, as someone who doesn't have kids and flies all the time, that you even have public empathy for this poor bastard who is gonna
Garrett's
get
response is put the kids in the cage and put them on fly them that way.
I like Paul's question. Don't bring them.
Yeah.
But I would almost say that you should maybe put stranger in the aisle, because that at least gives them a little bit of room and an out.
But the
quickly.
problem is the group is always passing things in between and
maybe
talking.
yes, but
It
I
just
think I would
happens.
rather that than feel kid trapped.
Here's
that's
what I'm
interesting.
going to say, and maybe it's a bold move, but I think your number one goal is to make it look the most unappealing seat choice you could possibly do. Put those bags there with the Cheerios.
Okay.
Like, take it over. So if somebody even is thinking about it, they're like, if it is a full flight, you can't do anything about it. But you don't want anyone to even think about it until it's literally the last resort. So you're like, packing up the Cheerios, putting it all back. Like, you want them to feel inconvenienced. That's, I think, part of it.
Okay.
And I also think this, you're traveling with kids, people have empathy. Like, you may be like, oh, I hate that baby. But you know what? You have the rule of the roost. I think you have the rule of the roost.
But let's talk, Ellie, for a second about the making things unappealing, because there's gonna be a turn on this. If you're sold out, you're sold out. But if you're not sold out, there are ways. You could do the TikTok thing where you pop a hand up, but it's gonna be hard with kids.
Yeah.
Because when your kids get on, there's just so much happening. You got a 7, a 4, and a 2. You're just trying to wrangle wild animals.
Yeah.
Thank God for iPads.
Yeah.
Thank God for iPads, but there is a world where you heighten your look.
Okay. All right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because there's every once in a while you'll see, I'll be on a plane, you'll see a family, mom's keeping it tight, dad's looking good. You go, mom and dad are in control of the guards are in control of the inmates. Other families you'll see, mom's hair is all over the place. Looks like a bird's nest. Dad hasn't slept in a while. He's wearing straight up sweatpants with mustard on it.
I was going to say, what's very helpful to being like,
you know what I'm saying?
Pajamas. Anytime someone wears pajamas in the airport, I'm like, I don't want to slice of this guy.
Pajamas, messy hair.
Yeah. It is a nice way to again, we're talking about putting people off. If you want to go one step further, have a box of tissues in your hand.
Yes,
and regardless of your kids being sick or not, just be passing tissue.
Also, have the 4-year-old on a loop say, as he's getting in, I'm going to barf. I'm going to barf.
Yeah. Have the kids play their roles.
I one time.
I mean, I wouldn't sit there.
I on a Southwest flight was flying back from Vegas after the Super Bowl, and a guy sat next to me, and he opened a garbage bag, and he said, I'm really hungover. I'm probably going to throw up during takeoff.
Did you get up and leave?
I had no option, but I was furious.
Right.
But an open garbage bag or even the barf bag open.
Gareth, you're totally right. Ellie, what if you give one of your kids, the 4-year-old, because the 7-year-old, he could maybe pull it, but you said he's independent. At 7, he might be embarrassed. 4, he's just looking for your approval.
Yeah.
Give him a barf bag and fill it with candy so it just looks weighted. And as he walks in, put him right at the aisle and say, before we take off, if you look in the bag at all that barf, when people walk by, you get to eat the candy.
I mean, this is a great way to get your kids involved. Now, I'll say this.
Get your kids
Ultimately,
involved.
what we're saying is, I think anyone who's rational, if you put enough kids, even if they're not going to sit there for the flight, on the aisle, right? Like, so that's the first thing that people are seeing, right? You're going to
deter.
Guards at a moat.
So, yes.
Yeah.
So, in the aisle's a great idea. There's another thing that happened to me on a flight that just blew my mind that a kid did within the last 2 years. They had their iPad and they didn't have headphones. Wild. To the point where I literally said to the mom above the aisle, no headphones?
Yeah. I mean, headphones,
they give them to you for free.
You could take the headphones. It is a wild choice. As somebody who has traveled with kids multiple times and had in those early days, like great flights and then terrible flights, and there was no rhyme or reason to it. You know that you're just trying to survive. But I do find that to be aggressive. Like, I'm trying to keep my kid quiet. I'm trying to keep them happy.
We are.
You know, like when kids are crying, I always say, like, if people go like, oh, they look at me, I'm like, you think I want this?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't want this. I'm trying to actively.
This is a nightmare.
Yeah, this is awful for me.
Yeah.
So, but the headphones, I believe that you can say.
But if you do that, if one of your kids, if the 7-year-old, like, here's what you need to create. You guys are a fucking zoo, and the animals have escaped.
Yeah.
And your aisle,
You want no part of this.
you and your husband.
Cheerios need to be everywhere.
Yes.
Your husband,
Prop
and
Cheerios.
in the middle, while people are aisle, you could say, so what's your husband's name?
Spencer.
Spencer. You get in the middle, go like this. Like, as people are first getting, go like, I'm trying my hardest, Spencer, okay?
I think
Okay, Spencer? Enough.
I like it. I think
Whoa.
all this is good. I would also recommend you go last row. Because then,
back.
yes,
Right
do
near the
last,
toilets.
do last row near the toilets.
Respect.
It's easy for the kids, and then you're not dealing with any back row distractions. You've eliminated
Respect.
like some of the problems.
But you are putting yourself in a very long flight next to an airplane
You
bathroom,
are.
which, you know, like,
on
as
Southwest has some
yeah.
smell.
Yep.
that's like that. You're already having a hard time. Like, why make it harder? I will say this: this is a great little thing, and we're not talking about passengers. This is just, how do you deal with your kids?
Yeah.
I think that, obviously phone time, iPad time, whatever screen you want, like, let it fly. But my friends came up with this great device that I use. You buy a bunch of things and you wrap them. And then you kind of dole out gifts. Unwrapping during the flight. So it becomes this kind of it could be small, a Matchbox car, an action figure, something. But it's not like, oh, these are my toys.
Right.
I'm getting something new,
Yeah.
very small, but it's wrapped. They're opening it up. It kind of occupies them. You do that 3 times over
That'll
6 hours. It's just another way
like
of
that.
keeping it moving.
So, Ellie, here's another move. So we've now given you some really good options on how to deter,
Yes.
how to entertain the kids. But the initial question of, you're thinking about that 6th seat. Here's another move. You go to the person at the gate when you're checking in, and you say, my youngest kid has a phobia of people. And they say,
of people.
we're in an era now of phobias. So
Okay.
you can now say you have if you go to a kid's party,
Yeah.
parents will walk up to you and go like, my son can't be around birthday cakes. The host will throw the fucking
Right,
cake
you're
out.
It's
Right?
allergic to the sky.
You'll go like this. Oh, so we don't do birthday cakes? And they go,
Got
no,
it.
you know what? The candle scares Phoenix because of the fire. And
And
everyone
then-
goes, get rid of the candles.
And then also what happens is then you feel guilty, like, I didn't even know that he
I didn't even know
that.
that. By the way, I
wouldn't
didn't.
have cake.
And guess what? If he has a fear of fire, who cares about fire?
Well,
I'll throw everything out.
I mean, we don't need it. We'll just stop.
Put a hose on the cake. Who cares?
at check-in, I would also ask if it's a full flight.
Yes.
Because then at least you know
Okay.
that you might have a fighting
But
chance of
there
getting.
are people, this is why I say the
Yes.
phobia, Gareth, because you're right. First things first, you say, is it full flight? They say no. Then you say, I'm really asking for an open seat because my youngest has a crazy 2-year-old phobia of strangers and screams and yells. We're doing, and then you go like, we're doing everything
Tantrums.
we can.
Yeah.
But if he's around somebody, it's like I don't know if his sibling showed him
I'm going to say
something.
this.
Huh.
Don't do it to the gate agent. Do it to the flight attendant, because the flight attendant's going to be
Uh-huh.
on the flight.
That's
Yeah.
interesting,
you.
yes.
Because the gate agent seems like, that's not
You're
my,
right.
it's like you can kind of get in there. And I also think that you want to be friends with that flight attendant. You want to make sure that they feel like you're working together a little bit,
Yeah.
and they will help you, and they won't force people into your seat.
You know what my wife did? We had a horrific flight when we went to London for a job when my kids were 18 months.
Oh, God.
It was horrific.
That's-
As bad of a flight as it could ever be. We had a whole plan. It backfired in such a way.
That's the other thing. You have to make sure that you have multiple options,
Yes.
because things will.
Plan A falls apart.
Yeah.
I had a point where my daughter was crying. So it was an overnight. I thought they were going to sleep. My daughter got scared. My wife and I were separated. She had one eye, had the other, so I was alone with a crying baby.
Oof.
We were in the area where the flight attendants, this kid was crying so hard. A man in the middle of the night stood up and started walking towards me.
Oh.
And I thought what he was going to say
Yeah.
was, could you quiet that baby? But because I had heard a baby crying for 3.5 hours, I was so fried
Yeah.
that I'm like, I'll fight you. I hate you as much as you hate
Right.
me. I hate this. The
It
guy,
is-
he walked up. He was about my size, a little bit older than me, but like not an older guy,
Yeah.
50s. We made eye contact. We were looking at each other. He put his arm around me and rubbed my back. And I swear to God, we stared at each other. And I said, like, thank you. I really needed that. And he was like, it's hard, man.
This is what I'm going to tell you. Like, you will find this ally.
Great empathy.
Yeah, because
Yes.
it's like anyone who has done it
Yes.
knows how hard it is. I learned this trick from a parent, which I thought was really good. You get like a couple bags of candy, small bags of candy,
Yes.
like and you just before the flight starts say, "Hey, everybody, I'm so sorry. We got young kids. Thank you."
Yes.
Like you're just kind of ingratiating your
Same pitch.
See?
So the other thing, what my wife did on that flight was she bought 3 Starbucks gift cards.
Right.
And the people around us, she said, we are trying our hardest. You didn't choose this. When we land, if you didn't get enough sleep, please get a coffee on us.
That's-
And the vibe was, everybody around us went
Yeah.
like, you're doing the best you can.
And that's all you can do. Now I'll say this. And look, I talked to my doctor about this. Drugs. And I say this with a
Thank
very,
you so much for the call.
Alcohol.
But like melatonin.
What doctor?
Melatonin.
Yeah,
Okay.
our doctor said, look, you're going on this big flight.
Yeah.
It's going to be, we just came back from Europe with the kids, and I have a 7 and a 9-year-old. And he's like, look, it's a 3 milligram of melatonin. Give it to them, and they will most likely conk out.
Yes.
Did they?
They did.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And it was, and it wasn't like they
No.
weren't groggy. I mean, they were supposed to sleep.
Right.
It was, it was
A
like
long
the right
flight.
time. And it was a night, like, and that's the other thing too. You have to book the flight at the right time.
Yeah.
Because you may be like, I don't want to leave early in the morning, but sometimes when you leave early in the morning, it's better, or you leave late at night. You got to find that thing because you don't want them to get on a flight late at night, then land really late because then they'll be.
Yeah.
You got to you have to do some mental math
So-
about time zones.
Ellie, I got to tell you, we've shot a lot of bullets at you.
Yeah.
What are you thinking you're going to do?
Well, I think I'm going to definitely be really sweet with the flight attendant
Okay.
and kind of explain the situation
Okay.
and hope for the best there.
Okay.
I'm leaning towards having the Starbucks gift cards as well. I think
Okay.
that's a really good idea. And the candy in the barf bag, definitely doing that.
You are doing candy in the barf bag. Good.
I get a little nervous with looking too out of control because I am such a people pleaser.
Right.
So I will probably still stick with headphones, but
But
I
Ellie, here's
think
what
definitely.
here's what I worry about you a little bit. I'm just now saying this as a friend. I can tell you're very presentable, and your
Yeah.
kids are going to be presentable,
Yeah.
and you got your husband dressed nicely too. You have made your little family of 5. If I saw you guys in a photo above a fireplace, I'm thinking cute family.
Yeah.
So if I don't mind sitting next to this because I know Ellie's such a people pleaser. She's keeping this group high and tight. Ellie, I think you got to get a
You've
little
gotta,
wild.
on the A side of this, put a little mustard on it so that you get that
Yes.
extra seat. You're going to be glad you have it.
Because
I
if you
agree.
don't,
Okay.
then you're really hoping
Yeah.
somebody doesn't go. You're hoping the person sits next to you is an old grandma.
Just think about how that extra seat will benefit this situation.
And all we need from you
Yeah.
is barf
hours.
bag, talk to the flight attendant, gift cards, and look a little rough.
paste in the
And
hair.
A little paste in the hair.
We also haven't tackled your one son's fear of flying,
Yes.
which I think you can
Yeah.
remedy with books, but also I find a really good thing. My kid was afraid of roller coasters, and on YouTube they have these first-person ride-throughs, and you can kind of just so you put it on the TV. So you can even show them that, so they start to feel like it's not all new. Let them get acclimated over a couple YouTube clips. Get them because the more I often find that why kids are afraid of something is very different. You're like, oh, they're afraid because they're up in the air, and then you're like, why are you afraid? And they're like, oh, because don't planes travel through time? No, their
totally.
reasoning is
Wild
always
logic.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's as much as you can pull out why they're afraid or get them used to it before you go there, because that actually is a nightmarish situation.
Yes, agreed.
And also take care of your other kid's belly.
Yes.
And I think
no
the-
reason to give them a burrito.
The presence idea that Paul presented is also good. I think
totally.
that's a way to just kind of keep breadcrumbing towards the end of the flight.
So, Ellie, in closing here, could you do us a favor? And as you're preparing for this, could you try to mess with your look a little bit?
Yeah.
And send us photos. And if you don't want your face in, we'll blur your face.
Yep.
But just to get what you regularly look like and what you're thinking.
A onesie would be so good.
Because I just want you to think a little bit of if you please people, then they want to sit by you. You are being the opposite of a people pleaser.
Yep.
You are not pleasing people.
Yep.
You want them to complain behind your back and say,
Smelly Ellie.
Smelly Ellie is who we're looking for.
I also think the other thing is this.
Thank you.
And Ellie, always be unpacking. Do not stop
Yes.
unpacking the bag until
Repack.
yeah,
Unpack
look
again.
like you're like fine, like it look like so it
ABP,
doesn't even look like an
always
option.
be
Unpack.
yeah. But there's so much going on. It's chaos. So you want everybody to go. Ellie is not in control of that group, and her husband seems to be a dud. And I pass.
Yes.
San Diego to Baltimore ain't no joke.
And you're gonna have other people trying this tactic,
Yes,
like Paul was saying
successfully
with this TikTok.
Oh, is that your group?
Look at this group.
Oh yeah.
wow.
See,
Okay.
we were right about you. This is a great looking group. Okay, so Ellie,
Okay.
you got
Thanks,
you got a wild out.
Yep.
Okay,
Go for it.
And we need Spencer to
Spencer
wild out too.
Have Spencer wear sunglasses the whole
Okay.
time.
Have Spencer shave his beard into a mustache.
Yes.
Or get Spencer one of those
Okay.
shirts that says like, I don't fuck with bullshit. Get him like one of those, a shirt of the person that you don't
That's
want.
exactly
Planes
right.
ride me.
Have Spencer wear a tank top.
Yo, please. I would say maybe a Rambo bandana look.
If he wears a bandana and a
And
tank
sunglasses.
top, a man with kids in a tank top, I'm not sitting near him.
He's an attractive man. He's got a great beard, but you put a pair of like baseball player sunglasses on him and one of those shirts, all of a sudden you get a very different vibe from him.
Absolutely.
Ellie, I think we're in a good zone with you.
And we can hear you're in the car. so.
Please
All
follow
right.
up with us.
Thank you.
Bye, Ellie. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
My name is Mark. I'm 60 years old, father of Mike, Ben, and Steven. Just wanted to call and let you know that I wanted to become a skeleton when I die. After having cancer and a liver transplant lately, I've thought about not making it through those surgeries, so I spoke with the boys about wanting to be a skeleton. In fact, I've really put a lot of pressure on Ben to talk Mike into making me into a skeleton. He's a doctor. He can do these things. So at that point in time, I can hang in his closet. I could be dressed for different holidays. I can do all kinds of things while I'm a ghost, and he'd never know. Move things around, things of that nature. But I did want to say, to you and your team that I definitely want to become a skeleton. I think it'd be a great thing to do for the boys. And I say that with all my heart. Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you later.
This episode is brought to you by Hero Bread. Hero Bread tastes good.
Absolutely. And I think, we talked about it before, but, you try to limit your bread intake and all that. But Hero Bread not only has super low calories, but it also has protein as far as like what we'd call a nutritional yield. It's great. They also make tortillas.
I've had the hot dog buns, which I liked. I like the tortillas. I like to eat a lot of bread, and I do try to limit the carbs because, we're trying to make these videos work, Garf, man.
Listen,
you got to keep the Garf girls happy. You can't be walking around. I mean, you're covered in sweat right now.
Sweaty.
Why are you sweating?
I'm in Australia, and I went to the gym, and the staff was in there doing work while I was in there just sweating and looked real weird.
But you made it work because you care, and you eat Hero Bread because you want a sandwich that tastes good, but you don't want the carbs.
That's right. It fits into your health goals.
Get 10% off of your order at hero.co and use the code HELP at checkout. That's HELP at hero.co. HERO.co.
Hello.
Welcome back
Hi.
to We're Here to Help for your second call, probably.
Yes.
We know
yes.
that this is a follow-up. We have no clue what it is. Jake's flexing. Things are going crazy already.
Stretching, brother.
What,
Just looks like a flutch at this point of my life, my man.
Things are bad. What is your name? And will you just remind us of your first call a little bit?
Yes, my name is Larissa, and I'm calling to follow up on the Chicago rat hole.
Wow.
I think we know what the follow-up is. The goddamn thing got filled up.
Yeah.
Well, it got taken. It got rat napped.
So there was a rat. It looked like a rat hole in concrete in Chicago.
Yeah. For a second there, you became Gil Buchanan.
And Chicago, a wonderful town. I've spent a lot of time there. WBCN, unbelievable station. Loved every moment of my time there. Shout out Carissa Buchanan.
Is that your first wife?
Yes, fourth wife.
Fourth wife.
I actually at one point was legally married to 3 different women, and there was a polygamy lawsuit against me. That's why I had to spend 2 years in the Utah market. But Larissa, this is about you. So there was a rat hole in Chicago. It looked like a rat, and it became this thing, and people were fucking pissed off that it became
because
a
tourists
attraction.
were going there leaving like cheese and coins.
And they were like pouring beer on it and just
which attracts real rats to a neighborhood. Larissa, you wanted to write an article and your friend was annoyed with you and said like, we don't need another article. And then our suggestion was what? We remember the setup. I can't remember the setup.
Well, go ahead. What exactly was our advice? We had a skew on the article.
Yeah, you had some pretty good advice. I mean, you had some pretty level-headed advice. The letter was over the top, like the response, like it was a really
crazy.
Desperate, crazed letter, and so I didn't know really how to respond to that person because it kind of put like a lot of pressure on me to. It was like, please don't publish this article, like a very desperate plea, as if they were truly oppressed instead of mildly inconvenienced. So I really didn't know how to respond.
That's a good way of putting it. I like that.
Yeah. And your advice, you were with David Cross. There was a lot of singing, and your advice was basically to include the perspective in the article and to write back. What did he say? I loved how he phrased it because it helped me write it back. To respond in a way that merited no further response.
Ooh,
so basically, like to be like, bye, like thank you. Concern shown, because this isn't like a buddy of mine. This is an acquaintance of mine. So that was what like, made it kind of
that's different.
Really intense. Yeah. And rude because don't write your article. Don't get paid to do your job because it mildly annoys me that people care about a hole in the ground. So that was your advice.
So what happened?
Well, what happened is pretty massive. Like, I have nothing to do with this, but the rat hole was scooped out of the ground very recently. Like, they
scooped it?
They took it. They didn't fill it in. Like, there were many times where people thought it was filled in and the community banded together to chip it out or whatever. This, like, if you look it up online, they took like 2 big pieces of cement out of the earth, the village sidewalk, out of the earth, and then
threw it into Lake Michigan. They saved it.
They saved it. No, and
it's in the Smithsonian.
You may know this. There's a big music festival in Chicago called Riot Fest, which is like a punk alternative festival. They are desperate.
Of course,
Jake's big into that one. Jake's rolling his sleeves up, and it looks bad. But he put him down.
Look like 2 hot dogs coming out of a shirt.
Taste of Chicago.
Yeah. Hey, don't put ketchup on these arms.
Oh, fuck. I feel sick. Okay, yeah. So, all right. So, Riot Fest?
They want to buy it. They're trying to buy it.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
So, they want to buy it. I think it's a great solution. They want to buy it for like $5,000 and then bring it out every year at Riot Fest.
Seems fair.
I think makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to buy a piece of garbage for $5,000 and somebody's going like, no.
Yeah. Right. I can't imagine.
We couldn't possibly sell a piece of cement garbage for $5,000. Just give them the fucking thing. It's literal garbage. Or break it up into little pieces and throw it in dumpsters.
They took it out in the most Chicago way. Like, they didn't remove it and say it was because it was this nuisance to the condo owners who live right next to it. They said the sidewalk was uneven.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I thought you were going to say the most Chicago way ever. There were 19 guys with mustaches standing around for 14 hours. And then in 30 minutes, 2 guys moved it out really fast.
They went over budget.
A lot of talk, a lot of Caleb Williams talk.
Yeah. I like that. I mean, he paints his nails, but guys, we got to get this out of here.
If he can throw the pigskin, he can throw the pigskin, and this kid can throw the pigskin.
Yeah, I don't begrudge anyone for anything.
The next day at noon, one guy goes, "Should I lift up the concrete?" Yeah, it's about time, Bobby.
Probably, yeah. Let's get it all out of here.
All right, so they take the concrete out. A cool punk rock festival wants to buy it, but Larissa, we need to know about your article.
Oh, well, my article, I mean, it's pretty great. Like, for me, it's on Thrillist.com, which is a really fun website. So my article came out really well. Like, I think I interviewed 15 people, and they all had really beautiful stories about this rat hole, this squirrel hole. Like, one guy, this guy Don DeGrazia, like he named it. It's named Little Stucky. That's what he called it, and it's like the mascot for his softball team. And I bet is really Stucky. Feeling it, Lil Stucky.
You got a new nickname, Gareth.
Oh shit, Mo,
Mo and Little Stucky, a rat in concrete. Who won't go away? He won't go away. He appeared one day.
Can I do the intro for this one, Mo?
Shut up, Little Stucky.
Sorry.
It's Mo, Little Stucky, and the Marshmallow Man.
Little Stucky and the Marshmallow.
All right. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna we'll post the we'll have Caitlin post the a link to the Thrillist so people can read it.
Check out your story.
But this was a really fun follow-up.
Yeah, and I hate that they took it, but I bet in the end it's going to be better. I really hope that Riot Fest gets it because a limited exposure to the rat hole might be better for everyone.
I agree. That piece of garbage
like the Berlin Wall.
It'll find a good home.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate the call and the follow-up.
Yep.
Bye.
And we are brought to you by Dell. That's right, Dell. Look, seasons change. Why not your tech? Upgrade now during Dell Technologies' summer sale event and save on select PCs like the XPS 16-powered Intel Core processors. You'll be able to bring your most intensive projects to life with built-in AI, minimalistic design, immersive visuals, and cinematic audio. Please complete your dream. Please, I'm not begging you. Plus, complete your dream setup with deals on select monitors, mice, and more must-have electronics and accessories when you shop online at Dell.com/deals. You'll have access to exceptional tech and electronics, plus free shipping on everything. Amazing prices await you for a limited time only at Dell.com/deals. That's Dell.com/deals. Came in at the end.
All right, man. And then before we go,
Yeah.
If you're okay with it, we'd like to just do a little chat with you, ask you some
Yeah,
questions.
of course.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, you alluded to something there about your mother. Something on your podcast that comes up. Your book is your book is kind of a highlight reel of some of the strange childhood trauma that maybe you didn't realize was trauma.
Yeah, my book is called Joyful Recollections of Trauma.
Yeah.
And I think that I've often told these stories about my life, especially on How Did This Get Made, and thinking like, this is normal. Like my grandma told me, don't answer the door because there's a butcher down the block who grinds kids up into chop meat. Right. And the reason the way they caught him was one of the moms bought some chop meat, and as she was frying it up, the little burger said, "Mommy."
Oh my Lord.
How old were you?
I was young enough to believe that chop meat could
real.
talk.
Yeah,
right. So, and I would tell that story, and Jason and June would look at me like, "Wait, what? What do you mean chop? Wait, what is this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, the butcher makes him to chop meat for kills
things
the kids.
that felt normal and fine."
And so you start to tell these stories like, "Oh yeah, I one time I went into the city to go see a naked lady." They're like, "Wait, hold on, what did you do?"
What
I'm
is that story?
Yeah, and so I said things off the cuff all the time and never really gave it that much thought. And people were like, "Oh, you should write a book. You should write a book." And I knew that like if I wanted to write a book, I'd have to go a little bit deeper than the anecdote of like what that was.
Right.
And I really took it seriously. So I started writing and just seeing where that kind of led. And I think the book is very different than the book that I intended to write. It has all these things, all these like funny things, weird moments with Christopher Walken, doing stuff at UCB. It's not really a book about my path as an actor as much as it is like as a dad or, finding my wife, and that like this kind of thing. And one of the bigger through lines of it is my mom got remarried at one point to this like super abusive dude. And we lived in this insane situation where we were basically had nobody to help us get out of it. And so, the first part of the book is really like that, like living under that thing and then kind of escaping it. And then
how old were you when I was
years? Like 5th grade is I think when we were able to get out. Yeah. So like
so your
grade.
childhood was under this monster.
Yeah. So that was a really like intense thing. And, it's always been a part of the story, but I've never really talked about it. Even to my wife, when she read the book, she was like, wait, this happened? I was like, oh yeah, I guess. Totally. Because it's like, there's a little bit of a stigma on it too, to talk about stuff like that. Like, because it's like, I don't want to bum people out or I don't know. And it's private or whatever. But I think what was kind of interesting about it was I look back on those moments. I have insane stories about like, I played hide and go seek with this girl who I went to school with, who her dad was, I guess, working for a very high up military figure. And when we went missing because we were playing hide and go seek, they sent a SWAT team after us. So there's stuff like that in there. But then there's also this thing about like the ramifications of living in a house that is that kind of that, and then kind of being like, how do I want to create my version of it? And am I okay to do that? Because I was a little scared to kind of have kids and open that world up, because it was a little. It was like, I don't want to fall into that trap. I don't want to be that person, even though I wasn't. So that's it's kind of wrestling with a bunch of different stuff in that area.
Have you taken your kids to see a naked woman yet?
I mean, soon. Once my kids turn 10 in a couple weeks, so that's when I would
Gareth,
do it. Yeah.
Right.
Great question.
Well, I just want to make sure we're carrying on a good tradition.
Oh, here's what I'll say. I love showing my kids movies, and I try to be smart about it. Yeah. I don't want to be the person who's like, I like this movie, watch this movie. I'm like, I look at them, I go, I think you'll like this, and then I play it. So Happy Gilmore, giant hit, falling off the couch,
fun,
dying laughing. They both have crushes on Julie Bowen now. Like they think that she's the hottest woman of all time, and it's amazing.
Still, if they see Old Modern Family, still,
and so they're all in. But then I'm like, all right, well, what else could we do? That they're liking this stuff, and I showed them Adventures in Babysitting.
Oof.
And
the original,
great movie, so funny. And then you realize there are things in these movies that we just don't see in regular movies anymore. Like, the big crux of that movie is that she looks like a Playboy centerfold. It's a PG movie, but that's the runner, is that Elizabeth Shue looks like the girl who's on the cover of Playboy. Then they steal a Playboy, and the Playboy is in play the entire movie. So my kids don't even know what a Playboy is, but they're like, ooh, and there's no nudity, but it's like, ooh. And then, and you're like, oh, wait, no, I don't want you to watch this now. Because then there's this other weird moment where they're picking up this girl from like the bus station, her Elizabeth Shue's friend. That it's like a real like deep plot.
Nerdy friend.
The nerdy friend. And so she has been at the bus station all night, and she's kind of passed out in the back seat. And Anthony Rapp, who plays like the funny friend, as she's passed out, he like picks up her jacket to like kind of check out her boobs. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Why are we putting this into the rest of the movie? Totally fine, but there's like these weird curve moments that you're like, yikes! Like why? Like we don't need that.
PG.
Yeah, like but it is like, it's funny, man. Like, but like, because you could see him like. Because like at one point, like Anthony Rapp is like, she's got big, and they're like, whoa, whoa. I think they're like so psyched that there's a movie talking about boobs. It's like, and then you feel it so much more when you're like when you're watching it with that eye. Like, every one of these movies, they have something incredibly. Goonies opens up with a guy trying to kill himself.
Oh, Goonies, that's crazy.
It's like suicide, like hanging by, and then you're like, oh. I can't take this.
I'll tell you the weird thing I'm doing with my kids and what, because I have 2 daughters.
Yeah.
So all the movies I loved, I've always seen them from like a boy's point of view.
Yeah.
All the characters from the movies I grew up, all the girls are hot, and the ones that the main characters crush after.
Yeah.
And my kids are not interested. So I'm like, I'll be like, wait till you see Stand By Me. Within 10 minutes, they're like, it's just about these boys walking around talking about crushes. And I was like, no, it's a great story.
There's a body.
I'm like, oh, it's a great story about all boys, talking about all boys stuff. But the thing I got them into that is not appropriate, but I really like is Catfish.
Really?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because I like having them know people on the internet are crazy, and this isn't real life.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
So like, it's like a weird, they'll like watch, and now my daughter, we were watching one last night. she'll do things during an episode. She'll be like, there's no way she's real, or she has emotional problems. And I'm like, pretty awesome response.
By the way, that's a really smart way, because I've found my kids now are watching kids YouTube, and they'll reveal things to me like, well, I know this, I know that. I'm like, well, okay, hold on one second. Where are we getting this information? Because YouTube may be for kids, but it doesn't have to be factual.
Yeah.
And that's the tricky thing, it's like, and so sometimes the kids will come in with like giant, like the kid brain stuff. It's like, oh, there's a dog bigger than a house. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Yes.
I saw a picture of a
How big is
dog
this house?
bigger than a house. And it's like, oh, that's Photoshop. And then like that was like June and I felt like we were so old last night watching TV and watching the NBA play-ins, and there's like a new Google phone. And it's like, and it's a guy like kind of making a little jump, and then it's like with the new photo editor, and they like he takes himself out and can like raise up his jump so he looks really awesome doing a jump, and then like a guy throwing a baby up in the air, and then they take out the baby and they raise it up, and you're like, you can just doctor your own reality. I was like, this is fucking weird. Like,
jumping or throwing higher.
Yeah, I don't want like.
I know.
It's like it's too convoluted to be like, oh yeah, this is great. It makes you look. It just like to be like cheat your life now with this new Google phone. So my kids are falling victim to those pranks a lot.
One thing I want to give you credit for, Paul, because I've known you since when I started improv in New York. You were already hit it. You were in Respecto, I remember.
Yeah.
Because I remember my early days with me and Oliver Raleigh.
Yeah.
I would be going to shows outside of UCB because you guys used to perform somewhere else.
Yeah, we performed. We were trying to get, like, the UCB had this Sunday night show called ASCAT. It was incredibly popular. And then we were like, well, why don't we do counter programming to that?
And who was that group? So I
that
remember
was
Riggle,
Hubel, Jack McBrayer, Jackie Clark is an amazing writer, Daniel Schneider from Garbage World. I'm trying to think of who else is Chad Carter, brilliant writer. Oh my God, Hubel.
But your guys' class was a murderer's row.
It really was like this weird moment where we all got involved in UCB. I think we were the first ones through the door. Like we were the first ones taking classes.
Oh, you guys were the first round of students.
Oh, 100%. I was in the first level 3 class there ever was.
And so how did you even hear about it? Because you went to New York to do comedy.
I went to New York to go to school.
Okay.
Like, because I wanted to be an actor, but no one in my family had that as like a thing. So like, well, go to college first, get a backup career. So I went to School of Education at NYU, was getting my degree there, and I saw this improv group called Chicago City Limits, which did like short form.
I remember Chicago City Limits.
Right? And I was like, oh, this is cool. Short form improv. Every time this bell rings, we're going to change the last word. It felt magical and cool.
But had you grown up thinking about improv?
No. I saw this thing. I saw this thing in high school, and I was like, whoa, this is cool.
Right. But it wasn't part of your story.
No, and it was like, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then when I had gotten involved with Chicago City Limits, they were like, oh, I heard about this like group called Upright Citizens Brigade. They're in from Chicago, and they're doing this show like at this place called like Solo Arts. And Solo Arts is like above an abandoned hardware store, 5 floors up on like, 17th Street between 5th and 6th. It was like not even like a theater. And you would go up there, and it was like a 50-seat theater, and you just watch like Adam McKay and Tina Fey and Rachel Dratchik all perform with them and do the show. And when I saw that, I was like, this is it.
Yeah,
like what I'm doing seemed immediately lame, and I thought what I was doing was the coolest thing. Like right. So it was like that thing of like, oh, that's
the thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I just put all my energy into that. So I was in those first rounds of classes, and I had performed at Chicago City Limits, so I had a slight head, like a little bit of a leg up because I've been doing it, but differently. And and that group that kind of like, there's a lot of people who fell by the wayside, but I would say
a lot of that group works.
I would say like 30 of us that all like started very much in the beginning. And that was a kind of, I think the thing is like Second City, we were the first wave. So there was a bigger connection than I'm coming to a school to make friends. It's like we were painting the walls of a theater. We were, flyering on the 14th Street. Like we were, like it was our theater, it was, and the UCB really empowered us in that way. It was like, no, we're doing shows. And when the UCB theater first opened, I did 5 shows a week because it was like 3 shows a night. And you were just like, and you were just getting so much stage time. And it was amazing.
And then it popped.
And then all of a sudden famous people were like showing up. And it was like, holy shit.
All of a sudden, because I was in New York before it popped.
Yeah.
And then I was in New York when that explosion happened where you went like, what the fuck is this? Because I came out of Chicago,
Yeah.
where Second City was improv always your thing?
Yeah, pretty much, especially when I moved out here and everything.
But even before, like
when
totally.
You were growing when I
up,
was 14, similar to that, I saw it for the first time and I was like, "What the fuck?"
That's
is
the thing.
Yeah, it seems amazing.
But more than like, was stand up ever a desire for you? Because it feels like it's such different paths. That now are merging, but it was so different back in the day.
I love stand up. I loved like Eddie Murphy. I love all that stuff, but I liked sketch more.
Same.
And then when I saw improv, it felt like, oh, this is the right kind of connection. Like stand up never felt like. I like the collaboration too. I like
scenes.
Yeah, I like scenes and working with people, like being
building.
Also, as someone who's bombed at both, there's something so much easier about bombing and improv. Like if you haven't bombed, you're at least able to come back and commiserate. Whereas stand-up bombing is so lonely.
There's like I talk about this in my book for a second too. Like you're always trying to impress people when you're coming up, and like the State, which was David Wayne and Ken Marino and all those guys. Like they had this like offshoot show called like Stella.
Yep.
So that was like Showalter, Wayne, and Michael Ian Black.
Yeah.
And it was in the cool place called Fez, and it was downtown, right next to Blue Man Group, and it was like everyone was there because you would go to that show, and not only was it packed with like real audience, but it was also like you'd see like Jon Stewart, or you'd see like Paul Rudd, all these people like, oh, I know that. Oh my gosh, right? It was like, and it just felt like a cool show. They asked us to come and do a bit, and we're like, we have to.
Who's they?
Right, the Stella guys.
No.
So the Respecto.
Oh, the whole
so
group.
They said, come do a bit. Like, and we're like, okay, we're going to do a bit, but we're not going to do a bit that we normally do. We're going to do, because we want to play to the room. We want to show them how good we are. So we wrote this bit where we were going to be the Blue Man Group, right? So we paint ourselves blue. We're in our jumpsuits. We come down because we're right under the Blue Man Group, the way that this show was. And we're like, doing all this dumb stuff with marshmallows, and we pull somebody out from the audience who's a plant, and we like bring them backstage just like the Blue Man Group does. And at that point, it was going to cut to a video, and we had already pre-shot the video, and it was a pre-tape, and we get them backstage, and we're fucking with them so much that we actually break their neck, and they die. and when they die, like we get covered in blood. And so we go off stage to cue the video, and then there's silence, nothing. And we're like, oh God. And then I hear just like this little voice go like, projector's not working.
Oh my God.
Now at this point, we're covered in blood, and there's no connection to why we're blue and now why we're covered in blood. And we've already established we can't talk because we're the Blue Man Group. So we have to figure out how to come back out on stage. So we have this opening that's really fun and weird, and people are into it. And then it's like no video. And then we have to like come out on stage and be like, and then like somebody just yelled out like, we killed somebody. And then we just ran.
Oh my God.
Like we didn't know what to do. And then but bombing with like, that was a bomb in a room with like
bombing.
Bond. And then you like, just go to how can we get to the bar
as
to
soon
drink?
as we
and then
can.
like just to be able to be like, but
so
it's so much better than someone watching like, oh yeah, this sucked. It's like, no, we all ate it together.
But then how did you get to Human Giant? So you were doing, because I remember I saw it and like, it was very clear from my generation, and more when I say my generation, there was a group of us, the Gethards and all that, but I wasn't part of them. I was part of Oliver Raleigh and my buddy Bill Bungeroth and I.
I feel like there was a couple of these like island offshoots. It was like you guys, then there was like Mike Birbiglia and Nick Kroll. They were like
different, yes,
right. And there was like
they were different people, but none of, at least from my experience, I didn't feel connected to the theater.
I think it's like that, like not in that way. Like there are people like Juno is like, well, we met at UCB. I'm like, but you weren't a part of UCB. Like you were brought into
June
UCB.
and Casey are a perfect example because they always felt like a thing too.
Yeah,
but they were like an island over here, and you'd be like, they're talented. And when I would see them, you're always like, I like them.
Yeah,
but we're not part. But I remember your guys' group. It was very clear. You specifically, I remember Wriggle specifically, where you're like, those dudes are going to win.
Well, I think what it was is like, we had the keys to the castle for not because we were good, but because they needed someone to run it.
Right.
Like, it was like the UCB were doing their sketch show, their improv show, their like their own solo shows. They were giving shows, but we were the ones that were like, well, we need a 10 o'clock Saturday show. We need a midnight
but
show.
Paul, you're a very nice guy, but you were killing.
Well, you're nice to say it. I mean, but it was also for me, no stakes. Let's do this show. Great, let's go do this show. Like, it wasn't like we were trying to get anywhere or do anything. It was like, let's just do something funny.
The goal.
Yeah, the goal was just be and do funny shows. And and whatever, and we failed as much as we succeeded. But I think that bond and Human Giant, what came out of that was really just Aziz was a stand-up who was hanging around. Like there's another island of this theater, which was like, oh, stand-ups would come in and do shows, and they kind of improvise. They kind of do bits with comedians or like improvisers. And Aziz is like, oh, I'm going to do the stand-up show, and I want to host it with like an improviser. Like, I want to bridge that gap, and we can just do bits. So the first week that they hosted, it was Aziz and Rob doing something that became Shutterbugs, which was like children talent agents, and they shot a little video for it. And then they did like live parts of it in the show.
Right.
And then the second show Aziz hosted was me and Aziz. And we went to the Scientology Center and taped it in New York. And we went deep in and we did this thing.
So you were making sketches.
Mission.
Yeah, we were making these sketches. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, let's shoot this. And then Aziz and I like came up with this idea for Illusionators, and we shot that. And it was very, again, organic. And some exec from MTV saw it and was like, you guys should have a sketch show. And we're like, us? Like Rob has white hair, I'm bald, and this is Aziz. Like you have the Hills on, and 3-6 Mafia are doing shows. Like what? We're not in this zeitgeist, but the guy who ran MTV at the time was like, I love Andy Milonakis, I love you, and I also love the Hills, and like so he had a great thing, and it
was a great show.
Great show.
Got to thread this needle, which was like it was the most fun experience we ever had because we had the support of a network to do whatever we wanted to do. And then we got out early. They gave us a third season. We had hosted like a 24-hour marathon, and we got our second season. Our ratings were doing pretty good. And then Aziz got Parks and Rec, and we made a decision as a group. It wasn't like, and I think Aziz sometimes gets like upset if we say, oh, Aziz got Parks and Rec, so we stopped doing the show.
It was a team.
It was a team decision because we wrote as a team, and it was like every one of us made those sketches good. It wasn't oh, one person was a writer. Jason Wolner, part of this too, directed Borat and stuff. Borat 2.
He also directed a really crazy, funny new thing.
Oh,
I'm forgetting the name.
Paul T. Goldman.
It was
unbelievable.
It was so good. I literally I found his email, I think through Gassner, just to say like, you did it, man.
No.
That show is
you did
unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
It's it better get. I don't know if it's getting a second season. It's unbelievable.
He is, and I've been watching Jason do that 15 years. I remember when he first went there and met the guy, and I was like, whoa, wait, what's going on?
What's the name of the show again?
Paul T. Goldman.
On Peacock.
Yes,
okay.
it's so
6
good.
episodes.
Yes.
It's really great.
But sorry, I want to go back to you.
Yeah.
So then you're doing Human Giant, because I remember that thing was erupting.
Yeah,
At least in the comedy world.
Immediately.
And it was fucking good.
Yeah, it really
So there are
was.
certain people who hit, and there are certain shows that go, but you're like, that was just, you guys were doing it right. And then Aziz gets Parks, you guys saw it going, and then what happens to you?
At that point, we are sitting in this moment where we're like, what are we going to do? Because they want us back. And so I think we go for the benefit of the group. Let's not have, this is like, I feel very comfortable with this decision going like, I don't want Aziz to come in on a shoot day. Like, because Mike, the guy who did The Office, I can't forget, Mike Scheer and Greg Daniels, they're like, we'll let you have Aziz whenever we're not using him. Like, we want him to keep on doing the show. But I was like, he's going to come in and be like, I didn't write this sketch.
It's different.
I feel like weird.
Yeah.
And so I was like, we'll figure out what goes next. And there was about, maybe like 6 months into that, I really regretted that decision. and then about a couple, maybe 6 months after that is when the league kind of came around. And that was
the change.
That was the change. But I always feel like you have to do this like swinging from one vine to the next and just jump and then don't know where you're going to go. It's like the league, we did that for 7 years. They wanted us back. And as a group, we were like,
over.
No, it's over. We did 7 years of it. Like, and people said to us, like, well, it's an ATM machine. Just keep on going back. It's like, yeah, but you want to feel that fun of doing it. Like, you don't want to feel bored by it. And we did that with NTSF. I did the show on Adult Swim, and it did 4 seasons, did 42 episodes. Like, we did it. Like, let's like you don't have to keep on doing everything, and that, like, the only show that I felt like I would have liked to have done another season for was Black Monday. We did 3 seasons of that. And that was Cheadle and Regina. And I think the biggest problem with that was it was on Showtime. And not many people get Showtime. And it's like, hopefully it will get released on a different platform at one point.
But to see it.
Yeah, but it was like, that was the only, it was such a good show and so funny that I wish we had like just a little bit more because the cast was so great.
Well, we appreciate you coming, man.
Truly.
I appreciate being here.
I'm genuinely excited to read the book after hearing about it.
Yeah, the stories from your podcast, How Did This Get Made, are for you of your childhood are exceptional.
There's a lot of stuff in here that I forgot about that I'm excited for people to see and read. And here's the thing, and I'm here because I want to be here. But if you do pre-order the book, one of the things I'm very proud of is that I learned how to do my little website design, and I put a special feature section on my website of proof of these things happening. I have the proof, like
the receipts.
They have the receipts because I talk about this whole idea of I collect things. I collect these boxes full of mementos. So when I tell you that I went to go meet the Honey I Shrunk the Kids at my Blockbuster video, I have all those autographs with the Blockbuster logo on it. I have saved all that stuff.
Which
I have
lucky.
I have plays. I have this school play that I did.
Speaking of our second caller, I'm sad for your kids in a lot of years when they go, do we save this?
Well, that was the thing.
What do we do?
I know, that's the thing.
The fuck is Blockbuster Video?
Have to have a decoupage room.
Well, now we got to watch the original Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, then get sad, miss our dad, and then throw this shit out.
I try to keep on compacting the boxes so it's less and less. I go through it and I sweep it.
Every time you move.
Yeah, I'm like, this is going to be a little bit more. This is this. I used to save every newspaper clipping of everything that I did. Like it was like, gotta save this, save this for my press kit. As people who like the local, as people who wants my Syracuse when I performed live at Syracuse.
I had the same thing.
Improv show.
I had the dorkiest little folder of you never know.
I'm at FedEx Kinko's trying to figure out how to position it like this before Photoshop.
The saddest moment is when you realize something didn't work. When I delete my really bad scripts from my Jake's writing folder, there's nothing sadder to go this one's never going to get developed further. This one's garbage.
No. They end up becoming relics of just a time that was ill-fated. You think I'll want this later to remember.
No.
You're like, I want to forget this. I really wish I didn't
I wish those 8 months of me being man, this is it. It wasn't it.
Yeah. And it's also it's hard to let it because it's hard to let it go. I worked on a reboot of Galaxy Quest for 2 years.
Yeah.
And and I'm like, this is great. And it was everyone got fired. And it's and that's it. We're never gonna talk about it again. All right.
No, my writing partner and I worked on an Alf reboot for 2 years, which seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, great.
And it was really just eventually these things that I thought were so cool and amazing. I was like, this just makes me sad.
Paul, thank you for
Thanks
coming.
so much.
You're the best.
Thank you so much.
Hey, everybody. Thank you guys for watching us on YouTube. Please
like and subscribe so you don't miss any of this quality content.
Ring, ring.
Here to help. Go ahead.
Cut.
That was a HeadGum podcast.